Have you ever thought about the fact that most of the concepts around fitness were historically based around the science of men's strength and men's health? Today we're going to find out more about what women need to be their best. You're listening to the Mindset Forge podcast, where I interview athletes, performing artists, and experts on how to show up for the biggest moments of life. I'm Barton Bryan, your host. I'm an athlete. I'm a former actor and singer, and I love helping people achieve their highest potential. The goal of this podcast is always help people get 1% better each and every week. I hope this podcast episode absolutely does that. Today's episode has a focus on women's health. I talked to fellow Austin coach Raquel McAfee. She joins the podcast to talk to me about how she coaches women on discovering a long-term holistic mindset around health and fitness and leading their families and themselves as best they can. As a mother of 3 herself, she specializes in helping women find sustainable, positive health. And a lifestyle allows them to really shine their brightest for their families and for themselves. Raquel drops some serious knowledge bombs in the interview as she explains how she teaches women to exercise to support the fluctuations of their 28-day cycle. Instead of following a strength program that was based on men's fitness, she helps women understand their natural rhythms, what to focus on first, how to find that strong, healthy mindset for long-term success. Raquel has been in the health and fitness field for 20 plus years. She's an online coach in the Austin area, and she supports women all over the country. Before I kick off this interview, I wanted to shout out 2 people that I've been coaching with for the last couple of months, Ashley and Kanae. Ashley's here in Austin, Kanae's in North Texas. Both of them are ideal clients. They work so hard. They take the programming I give them, they work on it, they ask tons of questions. They're all in to get stronger, and they really take the time and the energy to show up, use the program, and get the most out of it. And so I want to honor those 2 as 2 of my top athletes currently using my online coaching program. So if you're interested in online coaching where I prescribe you a program that you're going to work on at the gym by yourself, feel free to reach out to me. You do not need to be a top athlete. You can be at any point in your fitness journey, and this will absolutely help you. All right, shout outs are over. Let's enjoy this interview. So I'm here with Raquel McAfee, a coach in the Austin area and somebody who really inspires a lot of people to follow a healthier life, a passionate life. She brings so much positivity and energy to Instagram and her social media platforms to help people see her, find her, and obviously make an impact on those people's lives. So Raquel, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk with you today.
Me too. We're both Austin trainers and coaches in a sense, and so this is in line with that foundations concept that I've been going with lately, really wanting to kind of talk to people who aren't necessarily elite athletes, but understand at a very high level what it takes mindset-wise and just the perspective of being a parent and still living a successful, impactful life. And so wanted to ask you lots of questions, but I do want to start with your backstory. Talk about growing up. What were you into as an athlete, or what was that like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got my start in sports. When I was in 4th grade, I started soccer and loved it, and eventually went into the select part of soccer. So high intensity, elite level competing. And then I also got into basketball around the same time in 4th grade as well. Fell in love with it. Soccer and basketball were my sports. And then in high school, I added cheerleading to the mix too. So growing up, sports was a huge part of my life. Connecting with other people and just being active was just a part of my identity. And then in college, I got involved very early on at my college recreation center, and I fell in love with the group fitness aspect. So my freshman year, I became a fitness instructor at a recreation center, and then I also became a certified personal trainer as well. So it was just a natural fit to move from sports into group fitness setting.
Now, during those early years, like in high school and such, do you remember going to the gym and liking fitness at that point, or was it really about just the sports?
We did have to go to the gym, and they would put us through workouts and sprints. And I don't remember enjoying it that much. I just remembered it was forced upon us, and if you wanted to play, you had to do it.
Sure.
But that's why, when I got to college, I didn't realize at the time it had been building a foundation in me that when college, it just felt natural to continue.
I mean, I love that you have the sports background, but also the cheerleading, kind of a performance background in a sense. Talk about how cheerleading has maybe played into getting into group fitness and the energy it takes, I think, to lead those types of group fitness classes.
Absolutely. So when you're in cheerleading, you have to turn it on no matter how you're feeling. And so I think with group fitness, it was, cheerleading really helped me to be able to lead a group well and to be able to bring energy to fitness. I think that that's so important. I'm a huge believer that it should be fun. It doesn't have to be, yes, you're going to be sweating, and yes, you're going to be working hard, and yes, often you'll be uncomfortable, but at the end of the day, you should leave feeling energized, not just exhausted. And so bringing the fun aspect of cheerleading really helped me in group fitness and, in what I do now with coaching as well.
So a lot of people think that people that are into fitness or become trainers and instructors just love everything about fitness. So I'm going to ask you some really obvious questions, but
Yes.
What do you love most about fitness? And then I'm going to ask you what you hate most
Absolutely.
about working out.
What I love most about fitness is it's this time in my life. I'm a busy mom. I have 3 small kids who are very active. I work. I have a husband. It is my me time, and it is my non-negotiable time where it is just me working on me. And I need that in this season of life. Like, that is so important to me. So for me, the best part of working out is me making myself a priority. And then for my sanity, like, it makes me a better wife, a more patient mom, a better version of myself when I can get my body moving. So I look forward to just having that alone time for myself when I'm doing my own personal workouts, and just, the endorphins I get afterwards of feeling accomplished and that, I did something good for myself.
The other side of that, what do you hate, or what is like, ooh, I steer away from that type of stuff?
One thing I don't like about working out is all the extra laundry. I feel like it just adds to the laundry pile of workout clothes. But I'm not a huge fan of long bouts of cardio. I will never be a marathon runner. Like, kudos to those people, but that will never be me. I used to be a big time runner prior to having twins. And then after I had my twins, running just did not seem that fun to me anymore. It wasn't so good on my hips and my knees. But yeah, there's some days where I'm not feeling it. And I think that that's okay too. And I don't think you have to push yourself crazy hard on those days when you're not there. But just movement in general, even just walking, I always feel better when I get it done.
I think that's one of those, as a coach, so often we're trying to get people to just start moving. And so some people think, well, if I just do that every day, that's a good thing, right? Well, there is a point in which taking a break or taking a step back or feeling your body's maybe overtrained or just not a little off, and saying, hey, maybe this is not the day to go do a HIIT workout.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I'm a firm believer, and I've actually done a lot of research on lately, specifically in women, is cycle syncing our workouts with where we are in our menstrual cycle, and what a huge difference that does, not only on our energy levels, our mood, our metabolism, but then also on reducing PMS symptoms and having a better cycle. So really diving into that has been a game changer for myself, and that's really what I'm training clients on now as well for women.
Go into that, because that is foreign to me, obviously, as a guy, but also that's not, I think, in the normal vernacular of a lot of people's communication about fitness and cycles of training. So please go into more detail about that.
Absolutely. So most fitness plans are created with men in mind. And when we think of women, we just think, okay, we're just a smaller version of men who have less muscle mass and probably a little bit slower metabolism. But actually, women, if you can really tap into what's called your infradian rhythm, which is your 28-day cycle. Most of us are familiar with their circadian rhythm, a 24-hour cycle, which men go off of. But women, with our cycle, we have the infradian rhythm. So every week throughout the month, we're in a different part of our cycle. There's actually 4 phases to your cycle. You have your menstrual cycle, you have your follicular, your ovulatory as well, and then your luteal. And depending on where you are in your cycle, you're primed to go for those HIIT workouts, right? After your menstrual phase, you go into follicular and ovulation, your energy levels rising, your hormone levels are rising. This is the time to lift heavier, to go harder, to push harder in your workouts, and your body is primed for that. After ovulation, those hormone levels start to fall and you start to go into that luteal phase, and that's the time where you can kind of pull back. And for most women, that's the time when they don't feel like it. And instead of beating ourselves up and feeling like hypercritical, like, Where's my discipline? I was crushing it last week. That's when you really tune into your body and say, here's where I am in my phase. I can just focus on like slow, steady weightlifting. Maybe I go do Pilates or bar or walking, and that's actually better for my body at this time too, because my cortisol levels are high. And if I add stress to that, I'm actually going to really hurt my muscle mass, and also, my energy levels, I'm going to feel that. So just really learning how to work with your cycle is huge for women, and helping them really get some better gains in their fitness and just overall feel better throughout the month as well.
That's mind-blowing. As a guy who works out, and I think about how well I slept, or just certain how I'm feeling that week, or what's coming up, is there more stress into my life, to think about it that way, where each week really is a different part of this 28-day cycle, really could shift and give some clarity to why a woman may or may not be feeling well. That's
it's
huge.
Definitely a game changer and a big shift in the way I personally train and the way I train my clients as well.
Raquel, this is fascinating. I think the concept of women really trying to understand how their body responds to what time of the month it is and how that might affect their working out is really important. But specifically, as we get into our 40s and early 50s, you have premenopause, menopause. Talk about that time in a woman's life and what they might be thinking about and how you help them with that.
Yeah, so during that time when we're reaching premenopausal state, we're seeing a decline in our hormones, specifically estrogen and testosterone. So the main focus that I work with women in going through that life phase is really focusing on strength training. They've got to preserve that muscle. Most women actually gain an average of 10 to 12 pounds during that phase of life. We can counteract that by building more muscle. So really focusing on lifting heavier weights, strength training. I don't put as much emphasis on cardio because that's not really going to help get us the muscle that we want. Also upping our protein, because if we want to build muscle, we have to eat enough protein. And what I find from a lot of women is they're just not eating enough protein to support the muscle that they need to build. So that's huge. I also highly encourage women that are going through that phase to work with a functional medicine doctor to make sure that they're getting all of their labs checked. A lot of times you can go in and get a physical and your results will come back normal. I say that in quotes. And while they may be normal and not concern of your doctor, you might still be feeling fatigue and all of the other symptoms that go along with it. But while it may be normal, it's not necessarily optimal, and you may need to actually supplement as well. And I think that that's a huge thing. When you work with supplements, you're upping your protein and you're really focusing on strength training, along with, of course, getting enough sleep, making sure that you are, trying to manage stress as much as possible. That all together really makes a huge difference for women in that phase.
This is exactly why men and women should hire a coach and get guidance on where to start, right? You can't eat the whole elephant all at once, right? You have to take one bite at a time, and all those things that you just mentioned are important. But of course, you got to start somewhere. And so having a coach like Raquel or finding somebody who can help guide you through that process is super important. Anything as far as after menopause in your 50s and 60s that you recommend women think about when they're working out?
I continue to just repeat myself, but strength training, strength training, strength training, especially for women, in preserving that bone strength and that muscle mass. If there was ever a time to begin strength training, even if you spent your 20s and 30s and maybe early 40s not really exercising, not prioritizing strength training, now is the time to do it. Women need to be lifting weights. And I'm not even talking about the 2 to 3 pounds. I want you, if that's where you start, awesome. But I want you to progressively overload that muscle in order to really preserve that strength, because we're working with a lot against us. We're working with hormones decreasing, we're losing muscle mass every single year. So we have to be very intentional about lifting weights. I sound like a broken record, but it's that important.
From the men's side, it's just all these things are happening to us in our way. Testosterone levels are going down, our metabolism's slowing. If we're not lifting weights and focusing on strength training, we're going to lose that muscle. Our bone density is going to get weaker, and then it's going to be harder and harder to get that back if we didn't do it in our 40s or 50s. So if somebody wants to get more information on that, what would be the place that they can go to find out more, and then obviously reaching out to you?
Absolutely. So you can follow me on Instagram at Raquel McAfee. And in my bio, I have a free fitness guide where I break down the cycles, what phase of your menstrual cycle, and which workouts are best for you. It's completely free. You can sign up and get that guide for free.
Because I think, this is something I felt myself. Like sometimes mindset is we want to use it to trick our body into like going harder, like just shift your mindset. We're going to be stronger. We're going to be tougher, whatever. But if we're not in connection with a confluence of like strong mind, but also awareness of the body and where it's at, how it's feeling, and that kind of stuff, I think that can be also destructive too. And we talked about like working out too much. There's also just not listening to your body and getting injured because you just don't stop. Before we go deeper into this, which I love, I do want to step back a little bit and talk about, when you started to train people and getting into online coaching and really meeting people where they needed to be. What did you notice about people as you worked with them that was kind of their mindset, kind of early on that you helped kind of them shift and understand about?
I think a lot of mindset for people that are starting or know that they want to make their health and fitness a priority is they try to do too much too fast. And then become hypercritical when they can't maintain. So I always tell my clients, let's start slow and really build a solid foundation. I think that that's huge. And my motto for everyone is always, something is always better than nothing. So little something, like I said, just a 10-minute walk is better than nothing at all. Just start slow, and we kind of work and build a foundation from there. And then also, instead of being hypercritical when life happens and you fall off the track, whatever the track is, instead of, getting down on yourself and saying, God, this happens every time, I like to tell my clients, kind of zoom out and take a gentle observer approach. And instead of, coming down on yourself and where you went wrong, instead say, that's interesting. This is really good feedback. How can this help me moving forward? Instead of just being super critical, taking that gentle observer approach really helps you take the pressure off of yourself and then make changes so that you can be consistent in your health and fitness journey. Because truly at the end of the day, the goal is consistency over the long term. That's my goal for all of my clients. I can help you train for a specific event, but if you are consistent for years on end, that's a win in my book.
Yeah. So be a gentle observer of your own self as a mom of 3 and a wife and with all the things going on in your life. Like, where do you notice maybe when, things aren't going quite the way you want it to go? Like, give me an analogy or a story of how that maybe shows up for you.
Sure, absolutely. So life is busy and it doesn't slow down. Even it just doesn't. I feel every time I feel like, okay, I just got to make it through this week and next week will be slower. And it just doesn't slow down, especially, having 3 small kids who are very active in all the activities. And it is so easy. A week goes by and maybe I didn't exercise as much as I hoped to, right? Maybe I just didn't get it in. And instead of looking down on myself and saying, man, I only worked out twice this week, or I only got in one good, weight training session. I instead say, you know what? Something is better than nothing. I got in one thing. Was I active throughout my other day? I look for other small wins. I think so often we think a structured workout or following a structured program is a win. But if I was active and walking and moving and outside, throwing the ball or shooting hoops with my boys, that's a win. Did I eat well this week? Did I drink water? Did I sleep? This is so huge because especially as moms, we are taking care of everyone around us at the expense of ourselves and most often at the expense of our sleep. So if I got 7+ hours of sleep this week, but maybe I didn't work out as much, I'm counting that as a win for myself because I know that my body thrives on sleep. So just looking for the small wins and celebrating those things instead of being so harsh and looking at what I didn't accomplish for the week.
Yeah, I think getting people to understand the holistic approach to like, these are all the ways you can be healthy. Working out is one of those. Sleep is a big one, stress reduction, recovery, the way you eat, all those types of things. And oftentimes we put too much of an emphasis on the one thing that is like tangible. Well, my watch says I burned 400 calories. that's the only way I'm going to define success.
Correct. And that's really what I try to teach my clients. Like, a workout is great. If you can move your body 30 minutes a day, that's awesome. But it's really like 10% of your whole entire day. If you could just be more active throughout the day, but maybe you missed a workout, I'm going to celebrate that because that's huge. Some of my clients who are active, maybe they get that workout in and then they go and sit for the rest of the day at their desk or, on the couch. There's, what I like to call the disease of sitting. We sit so much. I'd rather you be more active throughout the rest of your day than get that 30 minutes in because, like you said, holistically, that's a bigger win than just moving your body for 20 to 30 minutes.
I think there's so many examples of unrealistic dieting. And I just think of the picture on Instagram of somebody holding like 5 pounds of sugar and like, look at all the weight I lost. And they're using a kind of a trick diet or something. And it seems really great and everybody wants that. But as a coach, it's so hard for us to give that information to say, this is healthy weight loss. This is a healthy lifestyle. It takes time. It's all about the long term. Like, how do you help your clients understand it's not the quick fix? It's not the crash diet and explain the bigger picture?
Absolutely. I think we definitely have a big job as coaches in the industry because there's, quick fixes are sexy. Everyone loves that. We love to see a good before and after photo and we see like, dang, they did that in 30 days or, they did that in 2 months. That's awesome. But truly having a healthy lifestyle is pretty boring and unsexy. And I tell that to my clients all the time. I consider myself really working out for, since I was 18 in college, really, for 20 years. And if you would look to see what people who have been able to maintain a lifestyle for 20 years, it is doing consistently unsexy things day in and day out. But that's the goal, like to have that long-term longevity. I would rather somebody, it takes them a year to maybe lose the weight, but then they've made it a lifestyle and they can maintain it and they keep it off forever. And it becomes being healthy and fit is their part of their identity now versus somebody who goes on a, crash diet, loses a ton of weight in 30 days, and then in 6 months has gained it all back and then some, and they're on that yo-yo. Like that's not a healthy way to live. And more importantly, it doesn't do good for our mind either. When you feel like you have success, you get that win, and then you bring back all that weight, that honestly does more damage to our mindset than if it were to take you a year to lose that same amount of weight.
So you talked about, taking it slow. Let's say somebody hires you as their coach. Like, do you start them with like, let's start moving, or do you start them with like just food, or is it always depend on who they are and their personality type and that kind of thing?
I like to meet people with where they are. I have some that come to me and they are like ready. They put their line in their sand and they're like, I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to make a change. Let's go. And I have some people who are realistic with themselves. And I think women who work with me are past that point in life where they just want to like look good and fit into a certain size. And now they're like, you know what? I want to feel good. I want to be here for my kids. I want to be healthy overall. I want to feel better. And they're willing to take it slow and be realistic with what they can commit to. So I take it on a case-by-case basis, but for most people, we start with nutrition because I get it. Life gets busy and maybe you can't commit to exercising yet, and that's okay. But you gotta eat, right? There's no way around it. You gotta eat. So really learning how to eat. Like I said, I'm very big on working with women on their menstrual cycle and also with making sure our hormones are balanced. A huge part of eating right now that is not talked about enough, I don't think. It's always calories in versus calories out. Which, yes, for many people that works, but for a lot of women who are in their mid to late 30s who have had kids and their hormones are all over the place, we really have to focus on balancing our blood sugar. And, we've done so many things that have, harmed our metabolisms that we really have to teach people how to work to balance, how to eat in a way that's going to balance their blood sugar and heal their metabolism. And I always tell them, you may not lose weight for the first 3 months. But we're going to have to heal that metabolism and really learn how to eat well and make your body feel safe. When your body feels safe, like it's getting what it needs, then it'll release the weight. And that takes trust from a client because when they hear that, they're like, what do you mean I might not lose weight for 3 months? But depending on the damage that they've done, yo-yo dieting, stress, extreme periods of fasting. It takes time to really heal. So I really try to work people with nutrition first. Obviously, if they can add in exercise, we do it, but I always start with nutrition for most people.
Yeah, the least sexy of the two, right? Like, I'm ready to work out. Let's go. And they're like, let's eat.
Let's eat.
You talk about the amount of time, maybe 10% of your day is working out. But like your body rejuvenates its cells in 4 weeks based on the food you're putting in your body, the water you're intaking, all those things. Man, we should put more importance on what we actually eat. And so I think the calories in, calories out, there's been some breakthroughs and trying to helping people think beyond that, especially as people get into their 30s and 40s. But I do still think people on some level think all I got to do is just eat less.
Eat less and exercise more.
That's going to be the fix.
Yeah, and that doesn't always work, especially for my clientele of women who have done that. And it may have worked in your 20s. Mm-hmm. But now we've had kids and we're in our mid to late 30s and the game has changed. So we have to kind of work with our body and meet our body where it is. And it just looks different.
Yeah, and it's not the best version of yourself. If you are able to starve yourself in a sense and then work out a lot and just create this low metabolism with a high burn of calories, it's just not a healthy, happy place to be. I mean, just ever hung out with a bodybuilder 3 weeks before their show? They're miserable.
They're miserable.
They're grumpy.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, for women, we don't have that luxury of being that miserable person because we have people counting on us to show up as our best selves.
You've got a 5-year-old kid looking up at you going like, I don't understand why you're yelling at me.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's so important too when we think of the big picture and I love that you're really focused on helping women. It sounds like specifically moms who really need that perspective and guidance and wisdom that you're bringing to the table with this information, because I don't hear a lot of people talking about this in the industry. And I do agree. I think Arnold Schwarzenegger wrote a book called The Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding.
I have it.
Kind of well done. Mine was destroyed at some point in my 20s, but I used to have it too. But I honestly think so much of even today, like some of the things that we revere about working out is based on kind of some of that book or just the ideas behind men's physique, and then that's supposed to translate to women's physique and all those things. And again, we're learning as we go that doesn't quite always apply. And so good for you for owning that niche of helping moms and women. I want to know, is there something you're striving for? I mean, obviously you got 3 kids and a big full life. But is there anything out there on the horizon that you're like, hey, you know what would be kind of fun? I think I'm going to go do this. Or I'm going to go challenge myself to something.
I'd love to tell you that I do have a goal of, doing a triathlon or running a 10K. But at this season in my life, I have to be realistic with where I am. And for me right now, my goal is balance. How can I maintain a healthy, fit lifestyle and then still run a business, be a mom, and be a good wife? And I think sometimes goals are great, like running a marathon, like I said, or doing, 5K or whatever the case may be. Those are really good. And I think that that's great on a micro level. I like to think 5 years out. So I'm 38, I'm approaching 40. I think about in 45, how do I want my life to be? What do I want my health to look like? So to me, that's, I have a non-negotiable with myself. I get in movement 4 days a week. Non-negotiable. And so for me, if I can get that in and day out, that's really ultimately my goal, especially in this crazy busy season of life that I'm in currently.
I don't ever want to do a marathon, but I hear that a lot. People they love to throw out the half marathon.
Yes.
And I just hear my knees talking to me going, terrible idea. Barton.
I know,
Don't do that.
I know, but it's sexy. That sounds fun to be like, yeah, I ran a half marathon. I can put that sticker on the back of my vehicle, right? You want that decal.
You're going to get a medal.
You're going to get a medal.
Everybody gets a medal for running a half marathon.
Yes.
Yes. My son has all of his medals from basketball and things
That's
like that
so
on
fun.
his wall. It's wonderful, right? This is how we get the validation of medals.
Absolutely.
But I do love that you talked about balance. My last interview was with Kevin Richardson, who's a professional ultimate Frisbee player, and he talked the exact same thing. He's married, family, business, and sports, finding balance so that all the things are, kind of working together, and he's not dropping the ball on anything.
We throw out the word balance, and I think sometimes too for women, we get down on ourselves. I like to think of it more of like harmony in the chaos, because life doesn't slow down, but how can we just find harmony in the busyness of it all? I don't think anything's ever going to be balanced, and I think striving for that can make you feel like you're failing. So I like to tell myself just harmony in the chaos.
If your 3 kids heard this podcast 10 years from now, what would you want them to know or think about or reflect upon that you say?
Well, I have a daughter and I have 2 sons, and they know that I prioritize myself, my health, and my well-being. And I would want them to take away that that is always important. No matter what happens as you get older, you have kids, life gets busy, I want them to know that it's important to prioritize themselves. I think especially as women, we're so great about taking care of everyone else around us, and we feel selfish if we take time for ourselves. And I would just tell other moms out there, it's not selfish, it's not me first, it's me too. And I think that that's an important lesson for us all to know, that when we take care of ourselves, we can better take care of our family. I like to use the analogy of that. I always tell this to my husband, like moms are the sun, right? We're the sun, and we got the earth revolving around us, right? This is my family revolving around me, because moms seem to be the center that has everything going, and everyone's looking for my warmth. And I have to make sure that I'm taking care of myself so that I can shine bright and give that warmth to my family that's revolving around me. If I'm not taking care of myself, I can't give and shine my best light to my family. So I think that's important. And as a mom of a daughter, I don't ever want her to see me putting myself last at the expense of others, because I don't want her to do that when she becomes a mom, a mother, a wife either. So I always make sure that my kids see, hey, obviously I take great care of you, but don't forget I'm also prioritizing myself as well.
When you're talking about the son and that analogy, I thought that's a great leader. Like in the family unit, it's the mom. But in any position where somebody cares for the other people around them, supports and looks after, it's that the light of the leader that really impacts the connection and the health of the people around them. That's fantastic. So, if you're on a team and you're a coach or a captain of the team, like same concept. That's filling yourself up, making sure that you're taken care of, making sure that you're shining your brightest. In the show notes, I'll put in there, of course, all the information about you so people can engage with you. Maybe tell them a little bit more about how you do your coaching program.
Yes. So I work with people online and help them get set up with workout programs. I help guide the nutrition. I'm actually just creating a course so that I can help more people at a lower price point, and it'll be launching at the end of May. And it is the Woman's Way Guide to Work with Your Body, because like I said, with women, it looks different. We have hormones, our metabolism's different. We got a menstrual cycle. So I really dive into all those concepts. I dive into the mindset, how to work on those limiting beliefs. I grew up in the 90s where diet culture was huge and had a major impact on my life and my way of thinking, and really combating those thoughts on, is that really true? And what does health really look like? So part of the course is on mindset. Part of the course is on working with your menstrual cycle instead of against it. And then how to really maximize your metabolism in the way that you eat, balancing that blood sugar and eating in a way that's going to support your body to feel safe so that it can release any extra weight that it has.
I love it. And final question, talk about sleep. Talk about that magic pill called sleep and why that's so important.
Yeah, so sleep is huge for us, and it is the first thing that I feel like goes out the window when life gets busy. But sleep is really what allows our body to recover. Sleep is what helps our metabolism to be thriving. And when we don't get enough sleep and then we go try to exercise on it, we're actually just increasing that cortisol, those stress hormones, and it's actually doing more harm than good. It also, when we don't get enough enough sleep, it hurts our decision-making processes, right? We're slower in our day-to-day things. And, when it comes to making food choices and when we're tired, we tend to reach for those things that are like quick pick-me-up that tend to be high in sugar that don't necessarily serve us in the long run. So sleep, I will talk about sleep, because I think it's so huge and something that we can all do a better job of, shutting down the electronics earlier, unplugging from the TV, and, creating kind of a bedtime routine so we can actually get to sleep at a good time and make sure that we're getting enough rest.
Yeah. Somebody told me when I was 12 that I only grow in my sleep. And so I was like,
I tell that to my boys. Yes.
I'm going to be 6. I wanted to be so tall because I was a basketball player like you. And I was like, I'm going to sleep 10 hours a night. It's going to happen. But I think that it's not changed. We grow in our sleep. Our hormones are released in our sleep. So many good things happen to us in our sleep. And so you keep preaching.
I will.
Because I'm on the sleep preach train myself.
Yes, absolutely.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for this, your insights. I really learned a ton. Did not know much about the cycle of fitness with women and how that works and all that kind of stuff. And I think listening to this, if you're somebody who wants to find out more, she is your go-to person. You can find her on Instagram. Check the show notes to get all the information on that. And Raquel, I honor you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
There you have it, Raquel McAfee talking about helping women really find momentum. And I love what she says. Allows them to shine the light as bright as possible for themselves, for their family. A beautiful perspective. If you're looking for somebody to really help you because you're struggling with just getting momentum, getting started, finding ways to prioritize and knowing what to do, she may just be the right person to reach out to. No matter where you are in the country or in the world, you can find her on Instagram. Her information is in the show notes, so you can find her there. Send her a message. You can click on her link in Instagram, and it shows kind of different ways that you can engage with her, including downloading a PDF about some of her information that she talked about in this podcast. If you're interested in more information about a coaching opportunity with me, you can find that information in the show notes. Send me a message. We can have a conversation on Zoom just to find out more about your goals and what you want to do. Exciting thing coming up for me. I'm going to a podcast conference in Orlando, Florida, the end of May. So an opportunity to really bump elbows with people that are doing the same type of thing all over the country, learn from the best of the best, and really continue to raise my game as a host, as an interviewer. So excited about that and excited to see what to come. Next episode will be episode 50, and that's with a friend of mine that you're going to love. So keep listening, share this podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on whatever app you use. And for goodness sakes, if you're enjoying the heck out of this podcast, give me a 5-star review and tell people why you love what you're listening to. Thanks again for listening to the Mindset Forged podcast. And remember, let's be 1% better each and every week.